in the night and in the daytime to start our meeting in Community Church. Welcome everybody. It's just lovely to see a wonderful gang of folks filling this room and a wonderful gang of other folks filling the Zoom. Oh, that rhymed. That's good, isn't it?
He's a poet, he doesn't know it.
What?
Got to speak louder for the Zoom.
Okay, if you could turn up the red. Turn up the red, and we will proceed with our. This is not the sound check. This is live. This is real. My name is Dean Stevens, and I'm very glad to welcome you to this remarkable celebration of kindred communities, is what I say, because I always thought that about the Peace Abbey and Community Church. Community Church of Boston, Peace and Justice Congregation since 1920. I don't know if the Peace Abbey had a little slogan like that, but we'll hear a whole lot more about the Peace Abbey as this proceeds. But I just want to start with a little song. If I stood out in the rain night, my only light a candle a million miles away, would you lay down your fire as I raised mine? Would you not kill again? And oh, when you're near me, oh my love, oh my joy, there's nothing ever to weary me, oh my darling one. Welcome to the annual Sacco and Vanzetti Award ceremony, celebration, commemoration. We have some remarkable music to start out with. This is called Music with Heart, and Music with Heart has one goal of playing in places you wouldn't imagine there would be joy and celebration. They go to a lot of shelters, institutions, prisons, and this might be a little bit out of their bailiwick, because we're none of those, although sometimes I think we are just like that when we're going through hard times. But this is not a hard time, this is a celebration. And so I want to introduce Tim McHale and Music with Heart. And I'm a member of the choir of Music with Heart.
Hey everybody. I'm joined today by my wife Jane. Come on, stand up, Paul. And my good friends Coletta and Donna. And on piano is Andy. And so that's a nice unifying song is a little Bob Marley song called One Love. So repeat after me. One love.
One love.
One heart.
One heart.
Let's get together and feel all right.
Let's get together and feel all right.
Good. How about we all stand? We sing better when we're standing.
One
together and feel alright. One more time we say, let's get together and feel alright.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Music with Heart. I want to let you know that there's very little programming here. We have speakers on Sundays, and after COVID, usually we have maybe 10 people here, and then we had an open mic night with Jeff Bartley, who ran the open mic at the Cantab Lounge for 30 years, and the place was packed. So maybe this should turn into an open mic community church. And I think this is going to be sort of the theme for this event, because there are a lot of people who have a lot to say about the Peace Abbey. And let's call it a ministry. Is that a bad word? Over the course of 50 years, it's work, it's passion, it's community. Sacco and Vanzetti. I'll tell you that this church was founded in 1920, and you go into our archives, which are seriously disorganized and in need of a big grant to help us digitize and organize, but you find the very first event that's recorded is a Sacco and Vanzetti supper. They were immediately passionate about something that had happened right then, which was the arrest of 2 Italian immigrant anarchists. And they stayed with that case, which, as you know, became an enormous world cause to save their lives, for the 7 years before they were executed. And in fact, one of the founding mothers of Community Church, Mrs. Winslow, was in Italy visiting Vanzetti's family when news came that they had been executed. And ever since, it's been sort of a part of our DNA. We also have this plaque, which was built by Gutzon Borglum. I don't know if you know that name, but he did this beautiful plaque, and he also did this monstrosity called Mount Rushmore that defiles native land in what is now known as South Dakota. And this plaque has a really remarkable history that I won't go into too long, but it's really an amazing thing for us to have that plaque. It was almost lost. It was built in, right in the immediate aftermath of the execution, but it was lost for about 40 years and then was found again in an incredible story. We have since, let's see, what year was it? 1976, given out the Sacco and Vanzetti Memorial Award. And if we could take a look up here at some of the recipients of this award, I just want to point out a few. The very first one was William Kunstler. I'll also show you Roger Baldwin, one of the founders of the ACLU. I'll also mention Mumia Abu-Jamal, who is still in prison in Pennsylvania. I'll mention Arnie King, who was in prison for 50 years and is now free. Whoa, Arnie! Are you out there? We salute you. No. There is also the people who won the award last year, which is the Holy Land Foundation 5. Not too many people know about them, but they were 5 Palestinian Americans in the aftermath who started a charity to benefit children in Gaza. And I speak those words just for us to think a moment about that. The Holy Land Foundation 5. And in the aftermath of 9/11, we're caught up in this thing called the War on Terror, and for their work to benefit children in Gaza and the West Bank, we're arrested and tried, and after a mistrial, tried again, and eventually sentenced to very long prison terms, and 3 of them are still in prison, and we send our greetings and hope for your release out to them. That's a quick rundown. Kathy Kelly, Medea Benjamin, Brian Wilson, Cindy Sheehan, Daniel Ellsberg are some who have recently received the award. And I mentioned Daniel Ellsberg because of the open mic characteristic of this, which is that when Daniel received the award, it was during COVID, and we had him in from California electronically, and he went on for 3 hours, just himself, and we were rapt and would not dare cut him off because what he was saying, and you can check that out on our YouTube channel. Not to say that this will go on for 3 hours, but this will be an open mic, and we hope that folks will think about brevity, because it's going to be followed by a sumptuous plant-based meal that we're looking forward to as well. So every time that you're going on and on and on, think about, oh, I'm getting kind of hungry too. Okay, so hey, I want to invite, to start out with, one of our longtime members, David Rothauser, who is also a scholar on the Sacco and Vanzetti case, and who wrote made a film about Sacco and Vanzetti. You can find that film also on our YouTube channel. It's a remarkable film and documentary and dramatic reenactment of some of the scenes of the Sacco and Vanzetti travail. And David always joins us for some sort of words about the case, about the history of the case. And we're especially privileged to have him with us this morning. Thank you, David.
Will this microphone work? It looks like something out of 1920.
It is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Before Sacco and Vanzetti were the Sacco and Vanzetti that we memorialize today, they were Nicola and Bartolomeo, 2 unknown Italian immigrants in love with life and the people around them. Today I'm going to read a short chapter from the novel that I've written. The novel is called The Diary of Sacco and Vanzetti. It's the same title as my film that I made in 2004, The Diary of Sacco and Vanzetti. This is Sacco's Crucible. I arrived in this country 4 years ago, 1908. I am a kid then. I don't know nothing American, but I'm crazy about this place. Everybody is crazy for America. She's a beautiful woman with a big smile. Grazie, Lady Liberty. My older brother, Sabino, he shepherds me from Italy. 11 days on the sea, we disembark in Boston. Then first night we're in Milford, a small town where Sabino's friend lets us sleep in his attic. Soon Sabino finds work in a foundry. My heart is dancing. Every day I go to the foundry gate and wait like a puppy dog for my Sabino. We go everywhere together, me and Sabino. He buys me funny American food. It's too sweet, like candy. We die laughing every day. We wander the roads and hills. We even go to the Catholic Church. I find myself sitting next to a small girl. She's very pretty. Very pretty. Oh my God, I'm soon in heaven. I forget the Mass. At the end, she's still pretty. Sabino takes me home. I don't like Sabino pays for my food and clothes. I'm young and strong. He finds work for me as a water boy on a construction gang. A week later, we go to the church again. The girl is still there. She's still pretty. Maybe she speaks Italian. I whisper to her, mi chiamo Ferdinando. My name is Ferdinando, but I changed it to Nicola when my brother, Ferdinando, died. I work as a water boy on a construction gang. Her eyes flash brightly. A mio padre piacere. Her father will like me. Oh dear, life is good. I mumble. My name is Rosina, she whispers. The black-red rose is my favorite flower, I say with beating heart. Shh, beckons a scowling nun. Before 1 year, one day my brother Sabino grabs my arm at the foundry gate. Tonight we pack our bags, we're going back to Italy. Huh? I reply. This is no place for us, Nando. We work twice as hard as in Italy and make only half a week's bread. What for? To make the boss a rich man? I can't go back. I'm in love, I say. I protest to Sabino. You come home with me, you understand? We do business in Italy and travel. You stay in this place, they're going to swallow you up someday. Don't worry about the girl. If she loves you, she'll come to Italy, I guarantee. She can't. She loves her father, I protest. Now Sabino has no argument. He returns to Italy. Alone, I learned better get a better job if I want to be an American. The Milford Shoe Company is offer a course to study shoe trimming. I take the course. Soon I am a shoe trimmer, a fast shoe trimmer. In no time, I make twice what the water boy made. What else to make me a better citizen of America? I learn the language. I enroll in evening class at the shoe company. Mary O'Donnell is our teacher. One evening in the class, a worker sneaked me a newspaper, Cronaca Sovversiva, all in Italian language. Read this, don't say nothing. Then he walks away. Wow, this paper, Subversive Chronicle in English, says some tough things about America. I'm a little scared, but I read it. A few weeks later, I take the paper to the teach. What do you think of this paper, Miss Mary? She looked it over, she turned the page slowly, serious look on her young face. Mr. Sacco, I think you need to read English language newspapers. Get away from Italian for a while. She looked at me with her big green eyes a long time. Taking a piece of paper, she write the name of something. Here, you have a strong voice, Mr. Sacco. Go to this school in Boston. They will teach you English conversation by acting. It is the best way to learn English in any language. Me, an actor? I never do this in my life. Go, do it. Bring me back a soliloquy. You can perform it in the class. Acting will change your life. But I warn you, be careful of this Cornicus newspaper. I think it is a little dangerous for you. An actor. I run with this to my Rosina. We take our first lessons together. We learn elocution, how now, brown cow. Concentration is important. Body movement, dance. Here we excel. And Shakespeare. We even learn Shakespeare with an Italian accent. Wherefore art thou Romeo? We learn quickly, me and Rosie. Play comedies like us. We are handsome and beautiful. In free time, we perform in plays all through New England. Comedy, tragedy, tragicomedy, satire, farce, musical. We even make a little money, but most we give to struggling workers, poor people. Rosina is 17, me 21. A good time to get married. I remember the very day I asked her father if he would let Rosie come with me to the city town to buy something? He says yes. And away we go to the city town. And we bought a brown hat, a white underdress, a blue suit that matched my blue suit, and one pair of brown shoe, one pair of brown sock. And after she was all dressed up, I wish everybody could see Rosina how nice she looked. And they got married. Thank you very much.
David Rothauser, folks. Thank you, David, and thank you for your years of work and study of the Sacco and Vanzetti case, study of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the film work that you did on both of those. I want to next give the microphone to Amar Ahmad, who is going to announce a couple of events. These are emergency speakers that we've put together on short notice. And I'm going to just walk over. You won't see him in the camera, but give him this mic so he can tell you about them.
Great, thank you, Dean. Yes, so on Tuesday, in a couple days, at 12 p.m. noon, we have Professor Samuel Arian joining us on Zoom and on YouTube. He was one of the winners of our Sacco and Vanzetti Award last year. And he was a political prisoner in the U.S. He was persecuted after the attacks of September 11th. There's a documentary film you could watch about this if you wanted to, called The USA versus Samuel Arian. It's on Vimeo. But he's a brilliant geopolitical analyst. He's running a department at a university in Turkey, which is where he was deported to after his trials with the U.S. But he's going to join us. His parents were refugees they became refugees in 1948 when the State of Israel was created, the Nakba, the catastrophe, and they were forced to relocate to Gaza. So that's where he comes from. He's a Palestinian refugee, and he'll be joining us 12 p.m. noon from Qatar. So join us if you can. I shared the link in the Zoom chat, and if you're in the auditorium, I can take down your email if you're interested and send you the link. Then on December 14th, we have Max Blumenthal coming up here from DC, and he'll be speaking here live at the church at 7 p.m. So yeah, if you're interested in any of those, let me know or let Dean know, and we'll give you the information. Back to you, Dean.
Thank you, Amar. And let me add to that this Sunday, we're joined by Linda Dittmar, who is a Boston resident, Cambridge, I believe, who was born in Palestine in the years right before the Nakba, and has a story of her childhood and her journey to where she is now. And that's next Sunday, a week from today, December 10th. Music by Rod McDonald joins us from Florida. Amazing peace and justice songwriter. I love Rod McDonald. I'm sorry I will not be here for either of them, but I will join from a tiny village in El Salvador, which is where I'm going tomorrow. And I just want to mention that because amongst other things that you can find in this room, this auditorium, are crafts from one of the villages in El Salvador. They're over here, and it's holiday time. There's also enormous amount of books that we inherited from Bob Datilio, who passed away a couple of years ago. He was one of the foremost authorities on the Sacco and Vanzetti case. And not only did we inherit his mountain of books, which are both a treasure and a trove of not trash, but almost. It's kind of like you have these books and you love these books and you realize you need to get rid of these books. It's just like the quandary of every 70-year-old human being who has accumulated too many books. That's us. If you go around and see something you're interested in, it might be for sale. There are some books that are part of our library, but most of these over here are available to you because someday they'll go out the door to maybe to More Than Words, which is a wonderful bookstore, youth incubator, leadership institution here. So in addition to the books, we have an enormous trove of primary source materials on the Sacco and Vanzetti case. They are located on the 3rd floor, and we have a wonderful member of our team here in this building. His name is Jerry Kaplan, and he has curated and made order out of this disorder of enormous amount of incredible materials that Bob left us in a very disorganized way. And Jerry, I just commend you for what you've done up there with just as a volunteer and just here 3 days a week working on this enormous task. Eventually those materials will hopefully mostly go to the Boston Public Library, where there's already quite a Sacco and Vanzetti collection, where it belongs to, where it should be eventually as one huge collection and resource on that case, which is studied to this day. So thank you, Jerry. If any of you are interested in having a look at those, we have an open house every Wednesday at noon. We serve a lunch and we give a tour if you're interested in seeing not only those Sacco and Vanzetti materials, but we also have in this building the History Project, which is an organization that archives, celebrates, and preserves Boston's LGBT history. And we also have our own archives on the 5th floor, which are 103 years worth of record of what this congregation did. And it's a remarkable history of a congregation that was for many, many years the biggest congregation in Boston, met in Symphony Hall. 2,500 people might come to hear the likes of W.E.B. Du Bois, Martin Luther King, Thurgood Marshall, Helen Keller. The list goes on and on. So that's a little bit about us here. But this event is about you, and many of you are devoted, passionate lovers of the Peace Abbey, and especially Music with Heart, which shows up at every one of their events and delights us with music. So I'm going to join the chorus again and bring up Tim for a couple of songs of Music with Heart.
Cool. All right. All right, so you know the hallmark of our program is everybody participates. So we like everybody singing. So I'm going to ask our heartbeats here to kind of filter out. You guys just go on out and find somebody to sit next to or stand next to and give them the microphone. And let them sing. All right? Just kind of filter out. You know, get them started, jump started, and just say hello. And let's see, what are we going to sing? Yeah, I like this one because I was thinking of you guys. This one is Pete Seeger put this one together in the book of Ecclesiastes. Turn, turn, turn. Yeah. I think it's appropriate for.
Take your mics.
Check. Microphones.
You guys are in a new place. Moving on to another one. Andy, we're in C. Okay. And it's just a nice walk down from F, E minor, D minor, C. Resulting in quick change back to C. Yep. We'll start out on the chorus. Pardon me, I'm going to cheat a little bit. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time
to every purpose under heaven. A time to make, a time to lose, a time to break, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time of peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. Hey, can you use one? Lewis and Meg, you mentored me in a way, you inspired me in a way to reach down into my courage to fight the good fight. And one of the thing you saw me, you can get it if you really want. You can make movement in the world. So this is a song made famous by Jimmy Cliff, written by Desmond Decker. You can get it if you really want. We're in C. Okay. C, G, F seems to be the progression of, keeps repeating.
But you did. You showed us the way.
Try and try.
Thank you. Music with Heart. Yes. Love it. Love it. Come back soon. The sooner the better. This is going to be an open mic, like I said. There's no prepared person to give a speech about the Peace Abbey, and it's you who are going to do that. And if I really get my act together, I'm going to come around and hand each one a mic. At some point, I'm hoping that Lewis will sort of give us some direction here on exactly what we're going to do, but and spend as much time doing it. But it could be anybody else as well. I want to say that Community Church held numerous retreats at the Peace Abbey, and it was always this place of remarkable inspiration. I want to say that what grabbed me, and hopefully what you can see from our walls in this auditorium, is that the Peace Abbey was loaded with imagery of peace and justice on every wall. And it so happens that a lot of Unitarian Universalist churches are in their sanctuary and their spaces devoid of imagery of any kind, and I never liked that very much. So that's why we have so much great stuff on these walls. And maybe before the time is out, I will have my phone on the Zoom and show you a few things, like this display of Central America solidarity posters from the 80s that someone just donated to us, like the paintings in the back, large oil paintings by Yosh Sanborn Matsu, who was in the internment camps in Japan and then moved to New England. After he left the internment camps, he served in the army, and then he moved to Plymouth, Massachusetts, and he ran an art gallery in this space for about 10 years. It was called Gallery for Social Political Art. We also have some backstrap woven weaving cloth from Guatemalan Maya women. It's called Asociación Maya. A lot of the things over there are made of that same cloth, the sewn in El Salvador. We also have two keffiyehs on each side of the clock, and we have prayer flags over that, and numerous other things. But what we're really happy to have with us are these large banners from the Peace Abbey that Lewis will talk about. And I just want to say just the source of inspiration that the Peace Abbey and all of the associated projects that came from it are deeply an inspiration to me. And I want to thank you for that, Lewis. And I want to give you the mic.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Tim and Jane and Music with Heart and Andy and all of you that seem to follow us around and step in where needed, musically and in all ways important. We have a number of individuals here who we've had the privilege of presenting the Courage of Conscience Award to. I can't thank all of you for kind of following this journey. I'd like to begin before I go through a litany of what we've been up to for 50 years. Let you know that this Peace Abbey that we're here to celebrate wasn't intentional. It came about by simply following the lead of our hearts and our conscience. And here, I mean, looking after individuals at the Life Experience School, which, as many of you know, created the Peace Abbey. People think that there's an individual or a couple or a family or a group of people that created the Peace Abbey. No, the Life Experience School, it's dear to say those words because it started out as an elementary school to empower young people with special needs, disabilities, to see themselves as peacemakers. And we took that seriously, and they took it seriously. And one individual over here, Cortland Woods, Cordy, would you stand up and then hold that picture of that buddy of yours. And this is Cortland Woods. He joined the Life Experience School when he was 10. And he's, I shouldn't give your age, but he's 60. So we've been at it together for a long time. Bill's waving to you. You guys were arrested together. It's always nice. Shared a cell together in Framingham District Court. That was a special moment. This photo is of Paul DeMott. Paul DeMott was a special guy. The one thing that members of my family and my children disliked most about him is that he always would come on to my wife Meg. And we couldn't get him to stop asking him to see her belly button. And that was his MO. He would just go up to people, and then we would be like shocked that they'd lift up their shirt and show him their belly button. But that's the guy.
Tell him to stop, and Mike even encourage.
Yeah. So, thank you, Cordy. You can have a seat. I'm going to keep going here. Yeah, I'm going to go through a litany, and as I go through, I would ask, particularly Meg and Dot and Dan Dick, who are receiving the Courage of Conscience Award in the form of the Sacco and Vanzetti Memorial Award. And that's what it really is. They're joined at the hip. When I hear Dean and others speak about what goes on here, a version of that has been going on at the Peace Abbey for a long, long time in a different way. I've always said, and I think my children can attest to this, that it's better to follow Dad's actions than his words, because I fail to give voice to this journey I'm on. Perhaps that's a good thing, because each morning I wake up, and poor Meg has to put up with some fixation I have with an idea. She would always say, he thinks that all his ideas are good ones. Well, I'm going to go through this list, and my three grown children here, Meg and Dot and Andy, pitch right in. Okay, here we go. The journey of 50 years. Okay, here we go. Life Experience School opens in 1972 on Brush Hill. 1979, Turtle Island Center opens, which is in a renovated chicken coop. In 1985, the Life Experience School moves its schoolhouse to the Old Douse Library in the center of Sherborn. Around that time, we were asked to decorate the town Christmas tree. That was regrettable. We went into the library with every intention of celebrating the birth of the Prince of Peace. We took it seriously. We put up brochures and pamphlets against war and against nuclear power and nuclear energy, and the librarian promptly took everything down, and we had a little protest to express how we felt about our sentiments being looked down upon. They turned around and put everything back up, and that's when we began to be viewed as renegades in town. And, well, things continued on from there. Meg's sister, Susan, yeah. When the building was dedicated, it became clear it had to be dedicated to the two most important people, mentors in my life, which, and for many of you, I think, would agree, Bobby Kennedy and Dr. King. As the article read, and the journalist who wrote that article, James Sullivan, is here from the Boston Globe, I went on to explain to him when he asked how it all began, is like everything, there's a visceral moment that kind of turns your head and heart around, and that was looking through the crosshairs of a training rifle in boot camp, and I realized that that wasn't something I could do. Young people who were doing well with a shaved head and in empowerment with a rifle, thought it was fun on the firing range, and I did not find it fun, but there was a moment, that special, powerful moment, when it got trivialized, and I realized how easy it would be to shoot somebody, and that's when I found my courage. not because beforehand I had a political philosophy. I was inspired by Muhammad Ali as a conscientious objector, but it wasn't until that moment when I realized, oh my God, I could probably do this, because there's this energy around the kickback on a M16 that takes you somewhere. And I realized, well, it's going to take someone's life, so I put the weapon down, and that was the end of that. Bobby Kennedy's son, Michael, came, and Martin Luther King's son, Martin Luther King III, came for this special dedication. And then something extraordinary happened. At Christmas time, I was handed a present from Meg's sister, and they blindfolded me, and they handed me this tear-shaped box, and I opened it up, and it was a monstrance. For those of you that are familiar with the Catholic or Anglican Episcopal tradition of worshiping the Eucharist within this framed ornamental piece that's usually behind glass on an altar, it was from this wonderful man, Father Nick, and it changed my life. It was quite extraordinary, because normally when you hold a Eucharist, there is the consecrated bread in it, and they would hold it up and they would say, the body of Christ. And what became clear is when there's nothing in it, and you hold it up and you look through at the person at the other end, and then you realize there's the body of Christ. Don't look elsewhere. Don't rely on the ordination of someone who can consecrate a piece of bread, though there's everything right with that if you approach it properly. But in the Peace Abbey's case, it was to see that of Christ in everyone, and everything unfolded from there. So we put the monstrance behind this large globe, and I thought that would be it. It would just be there as a symbol. And one day, a fellow named Tom Royer showed up and said, what's going on here? I just saw this sign, Life Experience School. What is that? And I told him, and he said, you know, I teach transcendental meditation. I just moved here from California, and my teacher said, take the most precious symbolic things that you love the most and give them away. So I'd like to give you 2 items. And he went out to his car and he brought 2 bronze statues of the Buddha, one with the flaming sword of wisdom and the other one in the lotus position. And they sat there. I was amazed at the power of this Catholic Anglican symbol being couched by these Buddhist symbols, only to find people asking where did they come from. I told them the story, and before I knew it, somebody would bring me a Torah from their grandfather. Somebody would bring me a menorah, and we started to accumulate all of these religious symbols. Dan, you remember, it was in Dot upstairs, and because it was a state-sponsored, state-funded program, we had to sort of hide them. So we went upstairs which was then the Dowse Library, former Dowse Library, where Cortland Woods used to do his volunteer work, and we organized them in such a fashion that you would walk up and sort of get the essence of all the great faith traditions. Well, one thing led to the next, and one of our little students who had autism, his name was Norman Nyland, he was at the final stages of his journey, and when he passed, sharing the same birthday as St. Francis of Assisi, his family agreed that it would be wonderful if his ashes were brought to the cloistered garden of San Damiano. So I went there, and it was important to go on United Nations Day, October 24th. That was my birthday, and it was the time when I witnessed the praying of the prayers of the 12 major faith traditions. I was just a bystander. I had no business being there other than to bring the cremation remains of this little boy. And on the train back to Rome, I commented to somebody who was there, isn't this amazing that we're present for the handing down of the prayers of peace of the world religions? And they didn't see it that way at all. And this notion of the prayers being handed down, I absorbed and fashioned a life around sharing those prayers, which led to, as we're here today, to celebrate this organization, the Peace Abbey. Walsh and Dan Dick were the very first peace chaplains, it became clear that we don't need ordination. What we need is a total commitment to the ideals of that of peace of the major faith traditions. And that's what the qualifications would be to be a peace chaplain. Together, we created the National Registry for Conscientious Objection. I was at an event where I asked those in the audience to raise their hands if they're conscientious objectors, and a number of women raised their hands, and before I knew it, they put their hands back down. And it was at this gathering honoring little Samantha Smith. You'll recall she's the child who wrote the letter to Yuri Andropov, and it really brought about the thaw of the Cold War. Well, anyway, it became clear that women did not see themselves, despite the fact that their gender manifests gentleness and mercifulness and that of peace more than the body I'm in. So we created a national registry where people of all ages and both genders can publicly state their objection to the use of violence to settle disputes. Well, it was something that we wanted to move forward with, and Mother Teresa, who I met in Assisi, not met physically or interpersonally, but I observed her in the back row of this event when John Paul and the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Dalai Lama and Mahagosananda and others were up front. She was in the back, like Jesus said, to be with the least of these, my brethren, is where one belongs. So the money was borrowed, and the banks basically looked the other way in terms of determining whether or not we could really afford to buy the property behind the school for the Peace Abbey. And we were loaned $500,000 with nothing down to allow this dream to unfold. And I'll always remember being in the boardroom, and they said, just tell everybody about when Mother Teresa visited. Tell everybody about when you were in Calcutta with Mother Teresa. Tell the story, and we'll determine whether or not we're going to finance your dream. Well, when I finished, the president turned to me and he said, you're all set. I said, I'm all set? What are you talking about? He says, we just took the vote. And I guess it was, they just nodded, and they gave us a thumbs up and cut a check for $500,000 so we could buy that property. And that's sort of how that happened. You know, it wasn't that we produced anything other than honesty and an authentic devotion to a cause. And I think that's, if there's a message about the Peace Abbey for each and every one of us, it's not necessarily what your journey is about in any given time, but where in the present you wish to take your own personal understanding of peace. And for us, it was joined with special needs folks at the Life Experience School. They taught us how to move forward with bringing out the best in others. One of the things we did is we redefined what a peacemaker was. And what we said, and I think it's true to this day for all of us, it's in our vulnerability that we find our strength, because that's where we can connect with those that need the help that we want to provide. Then we did something that was really controversial. We put a speaker out at the front, and in January 1991, when the Gulf War began, we decided that the right thing to do was to broadcast the adhan, the Islamic call to prayer, out of the building into the community. I'll always remember how my children were brought up knowing that if they showed up 5 times a day, or one of those times when the broadcast led everyone out of the building to face east, and to just take a moment in silence. Don't have to be a Muslim to appreciate the adhan. So I would like Meg to join me here as we reflect on probably the most important step in our life, becoming vegetarian and becoming vegan, as it relates to a 4-legged creature named Emily the cow. And that's a story I think you're all familiar with, but it's best told by the individual who saved Emily's life. So Meg, tell us about Emily the cow.
Oh, raise your hands if you ever met Emily the cow. Yeah, she really was quite an attraction at the Peace Abbey. I guess I think back, I think Lewis and I decided to become vegetarian after a friend came to visit, assuming that we were. Brought us John Robbins' book, Diet for New America. And we were not vegetarian, even though we had all these wonderful farm animals we had taken in, pretty much that just needed homes. We had, goats and horses and chickens and so on, but we never had a cow. We decided to become vegetarian kind of overnight after he asked us if we were, and we said no, but now we are. And then about, 6 months later, I picked up a newspaper. Abby was in her ballet class in a studio, and I was in the waiting room, and I looked down. There was a newspaper with a picture of a cow running. It was a cartoon. The cow was running, and a butcher was following the cow with a knife, and someone with a pitchfork was following the butcher, and the police were following the person with the pitchfork. And I was like, what is going on here? And I read the article that this cow was 2 years old, had jumped over the gate, the next cow to be turned into hamburger at this local slaughterhouse, which I didn't even know existed. And as I'm reading the article, someone said, if I had a place to keep the cow, I would offer to buy her myself. And I thought, we have a place. We've got to go see if we can find a way to bring this cow home. And I dragged Abby out of the studio, and we jumped in the car, and I ran home. I brought the article to Lewis and said, what do you think? And he said, let's see if we can save her. So called the slaughterhouse, told them that we wanted to purchase Emily. Her name was given to her by the little girl that was the granddaughter of the owner of the slaughterhouse. And to put it all in a nutshell, because it was an incredible series of amazing events, they offered to sell her to us for $1 because they basically wanted to make sure that she had a good home. And they really didn't want the liability because she was running all over town, causing near car accidents. She crossed the start line of the Boston Marathon. People, kind of like an underground railroad was set up for her with people in the neighborhood leaving food out for her. And she survived living with a herd of deer, which was really incredible because the deer brought her in. Cows are herd animals, and the deer helped her survive. And probably one of the snowiest winters, 1995, there was probably 5-6 feet of snow. So we found a way to earn her trust over a couple of days, tracked her in the woods, and brought out some warm water and grain and hay and set a really welcoming place for her. And we were able to finally get her into a trailer with the help of some friends who knew how to handle cows on Christmas Eve. And we brought her home to the Peace Abbey. And I'll never forget following the trailer into the driveway of the Peace Abbey. And the 9-foot statue of Mahatma Gandhi is standing there. And as the trailer rounded the bend into the entryway, Emily stuck her head out of the trailer, and I swear she locked eyes with the Gandhi statue. And I'm behind the trailer, and it just hit me. It was like, oh my God, we're bringing a sacred cow home to the Peace Abbey, where, Gandhi and so many, people in India and all over the world see cows as sacred animals. And then it just was a whirlwind of the media was following her. She ended up in TV. She ended up in People magazine. It was kind of just, she became this famous ambassador for animals at the Peace Abbey. And I failed to mention that right before this happened, Lewis and I were introduced to what it meant to be vegan. And we became vegan about 6 months before Emily escaped. So that was kind of something. There was all of this incredible synchronicity and what felt like divine intervention, that we were meant to have this period chapter in our lives where we had a place at the Peace Abbey which became a sanctuary for farm animals, and really was an opportunity for us to really let the animals speak for themselves. When people would come to visit, they would hear their stories, they would meet Emily, they would understand the plight of animals used for food production and what it means really to try to live as peacemakers and do our best to follow a peaceful path in life if we're, living to be as compassionate as possible and to spread love. That for us and for the mission at the Peace Abbey, it felt that we couldn't do that unless we included the animals and, you know, the innocent creatures that are really just sentient beings with a will to live and desire to just exist. So it was a wonderful chapter in our lives, and I'm so glad for those of you who had a chance to meet Emily. She was just like a big old Labrador retriever. She would lick your face, she would cuddle, yeah, it's really hard that she's not here anymore because she was very special. So, thanks.
And when Emily took ill and ended up at Tufts Big Large Animal Hospital, she came home to die, and we were hoping and praying that we wouldn't have to put her down. That would have been the right thing to do, but it was like, oh, please, I hope she expires. And every day I would go out and giving her basically an injection of what amounts to a painkiller. And then it was getting close to the time when we'd have to make the decision. And I'll always remember going out that morning and finding Emily dead. And we called the vet, Margot Roman, who came out, and she was amazed that by the looks of things, she said, she didn't struggle. She was lying in the hay, and there was no evidence of any struggle with pain. She just looked like she was peaceful. So I spent the night with Emily. I remember getting a sleeping bag and going out, and it was like before we have our memorial service, which we scheduled a couple days later, that I would sleep in the barn and sleep with her. That's the level of commitment and understanding and devotion we had to this cow. She wasn't like any other creature. And it wasn't just her story, it was the energy field around her. So we had our memorial service. Over 100 people came, much as we're doing here, talking stories about Peace Abbey. People would talk about Emily. And one individual I'll always remember said, Emily saved my life. She stood up, as we're going to be, speaking about the Peace Abbey. She said, Emily saved my life, and then she sat back down. So afterwards, of course, I had to inquire as to what did she mean exactly? And she said that Emily escaped from the slaughterhouse, and she had been living in an abusive marriage for years, and that she lacked the courage to get out of it. And then she learned the story of Emily. She came and visited with Emily, and she thought, if this cow, supposedly stupid in the eyes of most people, had the courage to jump a fence to get out of that slaughterhouse, she too can do it, and she did it. And she says, I always attribute it to her. Yeah, that was amazing. And then people who were being treated at Dana-Farber would learn about Emily the cow struggling with cancer. They would go and sit and spend time with Emily. So there was this, synchronization of human and animal struggle that she personified. There was just something about being in her presence. After the memorial service the next day, it was time to bury her, and we decided that we would bury her behind the Gandhi statue. And I called upon Dan Dick to come and assist with that. We rented a tractor, and we put chains around her legs and dragged her out of the barn to a spot where we dug a large trench, and we thought that this would be a fitting place for her. And we then placed her in the grave, and Dan Dick over here felt that she wasn't positioned quite right. So he jumps in the grave, or he falls in the grave, I don't know which, but we had to rush Dan to the hospital in the midst of the burial service to get stitches in. Dan, why don't you come up here and tell us this story? I'll always remember how when I stand at the Sacred Cow Animal Rights Memorial, I can't help but remember that moment, my friend.
Well, it was our love for Emily that wanted her to have a proper resting place, and I don't really remember what it was about her position, but it was something about her head or her foot or something that was. It's hard to get a cow into a big hole. This is not something you do lightly. So she kind of had tumbled in, and there was something about her position that didn't seem quite right. So I was stepping in, and because of the hole, there were some ledges of dirt that were pretty unstable. So I ended up basically falling into the hole with Emily, and my tooth went through my lip, so I had a pretty good gash. And who was with us? There was another fellow. Joe was with us. Yeah. So we were at the hospital and at the emergency room at. Right. So so the person, the ER doctor at the time, he said, well, normally I don't do facial stuff, but this is pretty bad, so I'm going to have to give you some stitches. So it's a little bit of a scar there, but it was something I could do for Emily, and it was well worth the cost to me. That's really all I have to say.
The stories. Oh, the stories. That was '03. Yeah, April 3rd, 2003. I can't remember my kids' birthdays, but I mean, Jesus Christ. Oh God, that was such a special time, and of course you continued your walk all the way down to Florida. This is the one that ended up in Cape Town, South Africa. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What an amazing journey that was for you and for us to be able to honor that walk. I'm going to jump ahead into back, I should say, because I overlooked a special event in 1992. We celebrated the 20th anniversary of the Life Experience School, and we wanted to honor a number of individuals. Our MO, if you will, is to honor high-profile and lesser-known peacemakers and to work towards cross-pollinating their spiritual journey and their gifts. Rosa Parks, there's it. Thank you, Di. Yeah, and all the signatures of everybody that was there. God. So I bring that up because Rosa Parks was there, and we, of course, deeply honored that she attended, but what she did was at first really off-putting. It's sort of reminiscent of refusing to take a seat in the back of the bus. She walked up to our beautiful display of every food we thought people would love. Unfortunately, she was way ahead of us in the vegetarian department, and she was appalled that we were serving what we were serving and demanded that Dot and Meg and Mary McQueenie go in and prepare a different meal because she wasn't about to eat that. I want to thank Dean and everybody here for making sure today's lunch is totally vegan, totally plant-based. Lots of things unfolded after that. Perhaps the most important journey for me, one, was going to El Salvador and connecting up with the work and legacy of Oscar Romero. Of course, the Archbishop was assassinated while saying Mass, as you probably know. The date was March 24th, 1980. Once again, I can't remember my kids' birthdays. But I went there, and I was infused with the willingness to sacrifice that Oscar Romero empowered people with. There was just something about his life and his death that I took seriously. And the sisters asked me, this is before we commissioned a bust of Romero, which became the Courage of Conscience Award, where I was staying, and I said I hadn't found a place yet, I had just arrived. She said, would you like to stay in the sacristy? It's the little room behind the altar. And I said, okay. She said, this is where Romero spent his last night. And she took me back there, and I saw this little bed with a pillow on it, and she said, this is where he spent his last night. Would you like to sleep here? And I thought that would be sacrilegious. But do others? Why are you asking me? And she said, well, all travelers that come through are welcome. So I spent that night, and the next morning she welcomed me into the kitchen and pulled out this large cloth, and it was the altar cloth that they pulled off to gather the blood of the Archbishop. And here's this relic that's the size of, well, you can imagine, probably 8 feet by 4 feet, totally stained with blood. And she said, would you like to bring a swatch of that back to the Peace Abbey? And of course, I told her how powerful that would be if I was allowed to do that. She then brought me to his cottage, and she said, in this case, you'll see his glasses and his zucchetta. That's the little, bishop's cap. And she opened it up, and she said, would you like to touch the caps that he wore? And I said, I'd be honored to. And then she said, would you like to bring one back to the Peace Abbey? I said, oh my God. And then I saw 4 pairs of glasses, and she hands me his glasses, and I look over at my friend Alan, who participated in a stonewalk, and he wore those glasses but anyway, well, I put those on and imagined the suffering that he saw through those glasses. And one of the things that I did when I brought it back to the Peace Abbey was to cut a little swatch of the blood-stained altar cloth and to wear it. And I always wanted it over my heart. And then when I would hear about someone who just did civil disobedience and would be going to jail, first time I gave it to someone was to Father Frank Cordero, who's my cousin in Des Moines, and he was in for a 6-month term. And this would travel from person to person that was doing civil disobedience and standing trial and experiencing imprisonment. That's the impact of Romero to me. So I responded to a request to view the premiere of the Romero film starring Raul Julia. Meg's dad, my father-in-law, was in town, so we went to the Prudential Center to see it. Afterwards, I spoke to Elwood Kaiser, the Paulist priest who produced the film, and told him that I'm just so struck by the power of this man's message that I want to have sculpted a bust of him. But I want you to come and visit the Life Experience School and the Peace Abbey the next day, which he did. And, well, what can I say? On the 10th anniversary, we got to present the bust to him, and that became this beautiful award. The journey for me and the journey for all of us, I think, is to find mentors, whether you call them that or not, but we look around and we see people doing things that sort of move you to empowerment, and that's what Romero did in ways no one else has and probably could. The other mentor who I mentioned, Bobby Kennedy, having gone to his grave site, and I saw that white cross, and I witnessed people going up to the tomb of the unknown soldier. And I was naive enough to think that there might be at Arlington National Cemetery a memorial for civilians killed in war. Went to the administration office only to find no. I was informed it's a military memorial and there would be no recognition of civilian casualties. That's not what this memorial was about. Arlington National Cemetery, that is. So the Life Experience School moved forward with creating a stone of our own. It would be 7 feet tall, 4 feet wide, 6 inches thick, and it would have the words, "Unknown Civilians Killed in War," and we all participated in the engraving of it. And we felt, well, if Washington won't respond to the need to acknowledge civilian casualties, the Life Experience School and the Peace Abbey would. Who would we have unveil it? Well, the obvious person, in my eyes, in many eyes of the Peace Abbey practitioners, was Muhammad Ali. And he came and he unveiled the statue with his wife and his little boy. And that statue, or I'm sorry, that stone remained there until a little man from Cambodia came. His name was Mahagosananda, and he asked, he was the supreme patriarch of Cambodian Buddhism. He asked if there was one in Washington, and I explained that there wasn't, and he said, take this stone there. And I remember going home and telling Meg and the kids that we're going to be taking the stone to Arlington. The question was, how are we going to get it there? And you want to speak to that?
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Randa. Lewis and Meg are my parents, and the Peace Abbey was the setting of my childhood. I grew up there and had a lot of amazing experiences, but the Courage of Conscience Award was something that brought a lot of really incredible and renowned people into our town and into our lives. I kind of wanted to go through and reflect on a few of them. As a kid, I often mispronounced the Courage of Conscience Award. I would call it the Courage of Consciousness Award, which sounds like an award for people brave enough to simply not fall asleep, which is a pretty low bar to clear. But I've been involved in a lot of the Courage of Conscience Awards presentations, and the one that Lewis just spoke about with Rosa Parks, I presented the award posthumously to Jim Henson. And I remember being really, really nervous that I would misspeak and say puppet instead of Muppet and offend everybody on Sesame Street. But I think I did actually. I did say puppet, so darn. Another one that comes to mind was the time that our family went to, I don't know what it's called anymore, it was Great Woods, and then it was the Tweeter Center, but we got to meet Sting. And I have a picture of Sting as he stood so close to me, which was unexpected based on some of his music. There were a few Courage of Conscience Awards that were really special and amazing, such as when Maya Angelou came to town, and I remember getting to hold her hand and sit with her and sing, which is something that I'll never forget. It was really amazing. There were some other ones that I remember a little less fondly. There was the time that I was in Boston for Dalai Lama, when the Dalai Lama received the award. And that was a really hard day for me because this guy hit on my mother relentlessly the entire day. And that's my main memory of that, was just being really angry at Paul DeMott.
You had a crib in his bedroom too. I mean,
We were very, very close. But yeah, I think he wanted to be my dad, though. Then there's being so young when all of these people were coming into our town. Could be confusing sometimes. I remember when Mother Teresa visited, it was like so amazing to everyone, and I was maybe first grade or second grade, and I had a little seal stuffed animal with me, and she came around. She was very elderly at this point, and she blessed my toy seal, which would be pretty amazing to anyone, but I was just very confused that this possible witch had put a curse on my toy. In retrospect, that wasn't what was happening, but I was very young and just going with the flow, and that was really a big part of what growing up at the Peace Abbey was for me. Lewis was just mentioning when Muhammad Ali came to receive the award and unveiled the stone for unknown civilians, and I remember my 5th grade class walked down there to be part of the presentation, and we all stood in front of the stone for unknown civilians killed in war, and Muhammad Ali was there, and he was there with his son, and my class sang the song, "Where Have All the Flowers Gone?" as Muhammad Ali's son stood there and ripped tulips out of the ground in front of the memorial, which was pretty funny. I'll never forget that either. But the most important person that I think I ever met turned out to be my arch nemesis, peace activist and Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. I was pulled out of a birthday party to come into the center and join this meditation with Thich Nhat Hanh, and he invited all. Dot was there. Yeah. Yeah. He invited all of. And I was very upset to have left this birthday party, and he invited all of the children to come and sit with him on stage. And so I was up there, and I had this windbreaker on, and it's like perfectly quiet, and everyone's meditating as I slowly zip and unzip my windbreaker right next to the microphone. So everyone's trying to meditate, and I'm just zipping away. And Thich Nhat Hanh, in an effort to try to get me to stop, keeps inviting me closer as I scooch further away from him. And I think afterwards, my parents were like, "Oh, what was that like for you?" And I had the iconic line, "That Thich Nhat Hanh ticked me off." And I'd say all of this is just to say, it's one of the most unique childhoods anyone could imagine growing up at the Peace Abbey. But what's so incredible about the Courage of Conscience Award, and Lewis just kind of mentioned it, is how it elevates the work of others by connecting them to maybe people that are more famous and already known. I remember when we were giving the award to Noam Chomsky, at first he was resistant to accept it because he's a very humble person and felt like he didn't want the recognition. And then once you explained it, it's like, no, by you receiving it along with these other groups, this elevates their work. And then that made so much sense to him, and of course he wanted to receive it. And so I just think that's something that I don't know that any other awards do exist to, highlight someone that might draw attention, but bring the attention to so many others in that effort, which I think is really amazing. I know, I was looking at that list, it's much the same. Yeah. But anyway, I just want to say I'm so proud of the work that you guys have done over all the years, and all the work of the Life Experience School has had such a big influence on me. I'm a special educator in elementary school in Sherborn, and I remember, my whole life has been at the Life Experience School. Cordy, when I was a baby, would hold me and feed me my bottle of milk, and now we'll go out and we'll enjoy some bottles of beer together, and I can hold the bottle myself now. And anyway, I'll pass the mic on, but I just wanted to share some of those stories. It's really been a lifetime of really incredible work.
All right. Nice job, Chris. I'm Mike. I am the middle child of Meg and Lewis. There's just so much to talk about from over the years. I think, something that has been, we love to reflect on what it was like growing up with Lewis as your dad, which is, extremely unique situation. We weren't, it's not like, anyone prepped us for what it was going to be like. We just were born into the situation that was nothing like any of our other friends. You're growing up, it takes hindsight to really appreciate and to reflect on it all. Growing up, it's still just your mom and your dad, and you're just, riding along, rolling with the punches. And, we, as kids, it was, if you're at soccer practice, that you're going to be the last one picked up because dad will at some point find the time to cruise down in the VW bus, and you're like, okay, he's here. But then it was like, if you had homework, it's like, that's coming down the line, because we then have to go to the Peace Abbey and close up the Peace Abbey. And that was never quick. That was always, we get there and then it's like, let me show you this, let me talk to you about this. And we just have to kind of go with the flow all the time. And then, but it was like you're weighing, like, do we go with dad? No, it's going to take forever. Or do I have to go do it alone? Which was way worse, because we were certain that the Peace Abbey was haunted. And so that only, you knew that you'd be alone, and that was scary, but my siblings and I figured out a way to do it as fast as humanly possible. And closing up the Peace Abbey meant going through, there's 1,000 lights you have to turn off on several floors, individual ones, yep, and we would just do it as fast as possible. But that was just all part of the weird life that we've lived, and we're so blessed by it. It was, I was thinking about just, how hard it must have been to balance being a father and the beautiful life that we have, the five of us, with all of the responsibilities and your passions. And there was one story that I thought of recently that I hadn't thought about in a while, which I think perfectly encapsulates, just one of a bazillion examples of you having to balance that. And I had just moved to New This must have been the beginning of 2017. And I woke up to a text from my mom that our family dog Chester had just been put down, and that Lewis had woken up in the middle of the night. The dog was really sick and had to, rush him to the animal hospital, and sadly had to put him down. And then I remember just being really, we knew it was coming. He was getting old, but I was like, I'll call Dad and tell him how sorry I am that he had to deal with this. And Meg was like, well, he's in jail right now. And it was the morning of Trump's inauguration, and he was in jail with Cordy, of course. And I remember just thinking, like, how does he balance this? How does he, like, to go through like such an emotional moment of putting our wonderful beloved dog down to then, chaining himself across Route 16 in Sherborn, protesting Trump's inauguration. Like, it's amazing that you were able to balance these things, and I'm just proud to walk in your footsteps. I found something that's been really fun lately is that I've kind of been the unofficial archivist of the Peace Abbey Life Experience School. I'm a filmmaker who works in the inclusion world a lot, very much in my parents' footsteps. And I found, let me see if I can pull it up. We were talking about the 1985 dedication of the Life Experience School, and I found some footage of the day that Martin Luther King's son and Bobby Kennedy's son came to the school. And I'm just going to play the audio. You won't be able to see the video too well, but let me try, because I think it's just a beautiful moment. If it will work.
Perhaps there are no greater livers, Lewis Randa and his wife Meg.
If there's one thing my father taught me, was never to follow Martin Luther King on stage.
They squarely tuned it, lest we know that the dream that my father had is still alive. Daddy used to say that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. Perhaps there are no greater servants than Lewis Randa and his wife Meg.
If there's one thing my father taught me, was never to follow Martin Luther King on stage. Now it is really my special privilege to be here in honor of my father, Robert F. Kennedy, and the great American, the Reverend Martin Luther King. Their lives were dedicated to giving voice to the voiceless. The determination, the perseverance that Lewis Randa has shown have truly exemplified what my father and my uncle's lives were all about. That one man can make a difference in this world, and that every man should try. Thank you very much.
I think it's just a beautiful, well, there goes Saturday Night Live's playing. I relish finding these moments that I wasn't alive for, and so glad that these moments exist, because it's the Peace Abbey and Life Experience School is so rich with history, and it's great looking back and recognizing just how far it's come in 50 years of the school. It's unbelievable, and so many of our friends growing up really didn't, they were just subjected to this quirky little place in our small little town that was such an outlier. And I think everyone has grown to appreciate and be really proud of it. And, just really marvel at the fact that this dream was created out of thin air, and it's inspired so many people. And, the legacy will live on, and we're just very proud. So thanks for all that you've done.
Hi, everyone. I am the youngest Randa. I'm Abby, and unlike my brothers, I am not nearly as good at this.
Let me just add that Abby her name is Abigail Clare, and when we brought her home from the hospital, she arrived 2 weeks early, and I was not ready to bring her home, mostly to you. He was like a great babysitter, took care of you, but he was very young, and I knew that we would have our hands full. My mom was supposed to be there for your birth, and because you arrived early, they hadn't gotten her yet. So the night we brought Abby home from the hospital, she slept in a drawer at the Peace Abbey on the 3rd floor. And so hence her name, she was the essence of the Peace Abbey. So there you go.
Yep, and there's a little background. So just as kind of being a Randa child, we always had to roll with the punches, and were thrown in situations without any notice. Sort of like walking in today and my dad saying, "I look forward to you saying a few words." None of us were quite prepared for this. But yeah, so it was obviously a very unique childhood that we had. We, as Chris mentioned, there were so many wonderful people that we got to meet and unique situations that we were kind of thrown into growing up at the Peace Abbey, and lifelong friendships that we've made with the Life Experience School. We were kind of always up to something different. Our summer vacations were filled with walking to Washington, D.C. instead of summer camp, and going along with whatever had been planned for us. Driving, like being in the center of town, having the Life Experience School and the Peace Abbey in the center of town did pose some challenges for us growing up. You kind of had to pass it no matter where you were headed. And so if you were in a car full, one of your friend's mom's cars driving to a soccer game, and you're driving by the Peace Abbey, you might encounter my dad out front with a sign protesting, which, you know, many points in time was quite embarrassing. Or in high school, when I would have a lot of friends in my car, not quite old enough to have friends in my car, we'd start approaching the Peace Abbey and everyone would have to hide. Because Lewis would spend countless hours mowing the lawn in deep conversation with himself. So we'd have to hide as we went by. And then, as Mikey mentioned, there was always the approaching the Peace Abbey with Lewis, you would just be like, please don't pull in, please don't pull in, please don't pull in, like as you're approaching. And 9 times out of 10, he would pull in because there was always something he forgot, or we had to feed the animals, or like Mikey mentioned, turn off the lights, which was like the worst, the worst chore in the Randa family. So like as a little kid, he would bring us in with him, and I would be like tied to his leg, so nervous as we went room to room, turning off all the lights, convinced there was a ghost around every corner, or an attic full of bats, which there in fact was. And then as I got a little older, he would let me stay in the car, which was an improvement. And then when I got my license, that was when things got really bad. And I'd be driving home at night. It was dark from a soccer game or from a friend's house, and he would call and say, I need you to go turn off the lights. And that was like, you'd rather take the trash out, do the dishes, do anything than go turn off the lights. Yeah, you weren't alone, to say the least. I think it was a naked ghost. Yeah. So yeah, by high school, I knew where every room had 30 toggle switches, and I knew where everyone was. I could run as fast as I could and rush out the door. And I remember, kind of like any chore growing up in your family, like you weren't looking for perfection, you were just trying to get it done. And I'd get back out to my car and realize that there were like 3 lights left on. And I much preferred the wrath of Lewis in the morning when I left lights on, rather than having to take another trip inside to go turn them off. Yeah, so our childhood, of course, was very unique. I think there are so many amazing things that we got to experience. Also, some things that we probably weren't so thrilled about in over the years, but now are really thankful for the unique upbringing and opportunities that we've had. But yeah, so proud of you guys. I feel like there's so much to say, but I'll pass it along.
Thank you, Abby. Well, I've been waiting for this day because I'll always recall these words from my daughter. Dad, you're weird in every possible way. And here we are today. I'm 76. I waited a long time for this. Part of this journey is with the primary person to the Peace Abbey. When Mother Teresa visited, there was a chaplain at Concord Prison who learned about, through Father Thomas Conway, this little place called the Life Experience School. This is before the Peace Abbey was created. And Father Conway told Dot Walsh to come and visit us. Thank God he did, because when Dot entered the scene, she really understood how things should play out. I'm a little haphazard, and she's terrifically organized and made sure that every project and program was sufficiently structured so it made sense. Somehow I'm like a jigsaw puzzle. You know, I'll make sense along the way. And Dot, I want to hand the mic over to you and to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming along and becoming the Peace Chaplain, along with Dan Dick, that oversaw all the activities. Program coordinator par excellence. Bless you, Dot. Come and tell us something.
I think it's time to roast you. We all know how beautiful stories about you, wonderful stories I have in my heart, you and Meg. But there are some very funny stories. So, Cordy, you ready? Do you remember the time that there was a title in the life experience school and you didn't like it? And what did you do? We got arrested. All right, so can you stand up for a minute and just we'll talk about what that was like? Lewis had a great idea. He has, as we learned, he has great ideas. You might not think of it's a great idea at the time, but it turns out to be a great idea. So he said, we're going to chain ourselves to the State House, to the gate in front of the State House, because we want to change the name. And Cordy was especially objected the way they, so we did that. We chained ourselves to the gate and thought, well, this is not bad. And then along came the state police, and they ripped us off and threw us in the car, and they took us to wherever they take people that have been arrested, and put our hands up in, do you remember that, Lewis,
To the wall.
Yeah.
And, they gave us one phone call.
No, before the phone call. Before the phone call, because I want you to tell a phone call story, because that was unbelievable. But anyway, we got up there, and I figured out that you could pull your hand down. And I said, hey, Lewis, look at this. You can put your hand down as long as, and just when the police officer comes back, just put it back up quickly so he won't know that you've done that. And Lewis said, oh, it's a great idea. So he puts it down, and while his is down, the police officer comes along and said, you think you're smart? And he put it double tight. You remember that? Yeah. And so, and then we needed someone to, Meg was usually the one who would put up the bail. Right. So Lewis said, so I should call, and I said, why don't you call the head of, yeah. What was his name?
Jerry Morris.
Yeah, so he,
Commissioner of DMR with the R word, and that was Valentine's Day, and we wanted the R word removed.
That was what it was about, and it was really, and Cordy especially wanted that. So what happened? I said, Lewis, call him and ask him to put up the bail. And of course, Lewis said, yeah, that's a good idea. So what did he say?
Well, I called, and he said, the secretary said, well, who is this? I said, this is Lewis Randa. And she said, well, let me see if the commissioner's in. Comes back and said he's not in. I said, okay, well, I just wanted to tell him that we just got arrested at the State House, and we thought because it's Valentine's Day, he might like to bail us out. She puts the phone down. A few minutes later, and we're waiting, and it's the commissioner. He gets on, he says, what are you doing? Why would you call me? And I said, it's Valentine's Day, Jerry. I thought maybe you'd like to help us out and bail us out. And, well, he didn't, but they, years later, changed the name, and I was in Los Angeles at a conference, and Dot Walsh and Meg were there with Cordy, as Cordy got a standing ovation in the State House for getting the name change, getting the R word, and it's now Department of Developmental Services. It used to be, had the R word in it. Thank you, Cortland Woods. Yeah. And so it was great times. Yeah. And with all these stones being pulled, there's the latest stone, which is the global pandemic stone. We had ordered a stone that we thought was going to be pulled from Gettysburg to Washington, D.C., and that would be the stone that would eventually, over time, make it to Arlington National Cemetery. But then the pandemic hit. There we are with the stone, and we realized we need to make this stone relevant to the moment at hand, which was the pandemic, COVID-19. So we cut the stone, and we began with Alan Burt and Bill Holcomb and Quakers from East Sandwich Meeting, and we pulled it through Cambridge and into Boston. And Alan, if you want to, and Bill, come up real quick and just share a word or two about that, because it's going to lead to where it is now, which is on an island off the coast of the Bronx, where 1 million New Yorkers who are buried in mass unmarked graves. And Elsie Soto, who is the spokesperson for the Hart Island Coalition, will be sharing a few words. But Alan, you want to come up, Bill, real quick, and share that story? I don't want to go on too long. I realize people are getting hungry. We have some delicious vegan food. Alan Burt.
I'm a social worker. Social workers don't do anything quick, but I'll try. Pray, though. That might help. The pandemic stone, oh my God. There really aren't words adequate enough to describe the experience. How many of you have seen the stone? Yeah, many of you. So again, it just goes right to the heart, doesn't it? We're one family, you know, on earth, and the stone. My wife's mother's mother was buried in a pauper's grave, and never got to see where her mother was buried. And when I got married, shortly after, we found where the grave was, and we put a beautiful stone there, and we brought her to the cemetery to visit other relatives. And I'll never forget the look on her face when we said, Don said, "Ma, come over here. This is Aunt so-and-so." And the look on her face when she saw her mother's name on this beautiful stone. And I was just constantly with pulling the stone, is just thinking about that day, because it was the most beautiful day of my life. And the pandemic stone is doing that same kind of an experience for everybody. It's unimaginable, but it's just so beautiful. And I have such deep love for Lewis and Meg and the Peace Abbey, because you guys have just improved my life a millionfold. When I put the glasses of Oscar Romero on, I had tears in my retina, and I had perfect vision. And I had this vision, and I just kept saying, it was an Oscar Romero prayer that was coming through me, and I say it every morning. Think about what really needs to be thought about. Feel what really needs to be felt. Say what really needs to be said, and do what really needs to be done. And in the least of those activities is the brick and mortar building the kingdom of heaven upon the earth. I said that every day.
Okay, I'm Bill Holcomb. I'm a Quaker. It was not easy getting here, finding the place. I just want to say a couple words, because it might be between you and lunch, and it has to do with food. Lewis and Alan and I, some years ago, I can't remember how long, would sit around before a Quaker meeting, a wood stove. And somehow, in conversations with the three of us, each of us having our own gifts on our own organization, Alan is probably as knowledgeable about homelessness on Cape Cod, and maybe homelessness altogether, as anybody I know. Spends a lot of time with homeless people. Organizes sleepouts every year. I could go on and on. I won't. I'm retired from an organization where I learned some things about funding and money that may be foreign to some of the people here. And fortunately, I just made it to retirement so that when I make a donation, it gets matched by the organization. And so I became a sort of an aggregator for donations. And Lewis had the Life Experience School, and that I could donate to, and so the money would get doubled. And in some cases, I'd throw in some, as long as I looked like my wife and I weren't going to run out of money before we died. I would match the contribution. And what I'm carrying here, and this has some weight to it, Lewis gave me this, is the receipts from Stop and Shop food cards, which Alan personally distributes to homeless people on Cape Cod. And over the past few years, we've amassed as much as $20,000 or $25,000 for people who are hungry and for people who may need to put gas in their cars because they need to run the engine so that they won't freeze to death. So quite a troika, each of us having our own gifts. And Lewis, maybe you could just say a couple words about the work in the school where you got the cards.
This was hanging over around the statue of Mother Teresa. And as the school now is being merged with another organization, we donated that statue to the Missionaries of Charity in Dorchester. And I wanted to make sure that Bill got to have this for whatever reason, and I'm glad you brought it. It's a reminder that a little bit goes a long way. Each one of these cards is worth anywhere from $50 to $200. And that's what the students at the Life Experience School were able to organize with Bill and Alan. And I can't thank you enough for getting that matched. Now I want to just end with the words of a new friend, someone who has become like family to us. As we move forward with the memorial stone, wondering where it would end up, the thing about our stones is they take on a journey of a life of their own, never knowing where they're going to end up. But we learned about a place off the coast of the Bronx, a mile long and a third of a mile in width, called Hart Island, H-A-R-T. And it's where over 1 million New Yorkers are buried in mass unmarked graves. It's a green burial ground. In many respects, it's an opportunity for people to consider green burials. And it seemed like the appropriate place for the stone, but we needed somebody who understood the spirit of the stone, and we were blessed through Melinda Hunt, who is the director of the Hart Island project, to introduce us to Elsie Soto. And she became the heart and soul of this stone. And I'd like Elsie to come up. I'd love to introduce you to this wonderful congregation. Elsie Soto.
Thank you. It is an absolute honor. I'm very emotional, sorry. To be here to celebrate the power of the Peace Abbey Foundation and the Life Experience School. I remember the day that I'll just give you a little bit of history about myself. My dad passed away during the AIDS epidemic in 1993. And due to his disease, he faced a lot of discrimination. We faced a lot of discrimination to try to find a funeral home for him, and it ultimately became a fruitless effort. And he was buried at the city cemetery, which is located on Hart Island and right off the coast of the Bronx, New York. And so at that time, the island was controlled by a Department of Corrections, and it just was not a proper place for someone to be buried. And it wasn't because of its geographic location, but it was because of the treatment that those were facing behind the burials and things like that, and the reasons why they were there. So I'll just fast forward, years of advocacy and things like that. And one day I met Lewis at one of the Hart Island Project meetings. And here he is telling us about the pandemic stone, and I was like, a pandemic stone? Like, what is this and what is its meaning? And he told us about the rich history of the pandemic stone and the fact that it represents more than one issue or one reason that a person might find themselves on Hart Island. And when I met Lewis, I was like, he can't be for real. This person, he's remarkable, and what really touched me was that he deemed Hart Island to be worthy of a place to place the stone that has its own rich history, that has brought peace to so many people, is now going to bring peace to New York. And I was happy to spearhead that. And so one day, I saw a message that the stone was brought to the Bronx. And I told my husband, I said, get dressed, we're going on a mission. And he was like, no questions asked. So he's my Meg. And so basically, we went over to the stone, and that day it was raining, but by the time we got to the stone, the sun came out. And so I'm standing there at that stone, and it's freshly washed from the rain, and the sun's coming out, and it's drying the rain. And I said to myself, this is almost like a baptism, right? Because the mission that this stone had previously taken on for so many others was now taking on a new mission. And this mission was going to be to honor those on Hart Island, especially for those who have suffered through pandemics and epidemics like homelessness and drug addiction, and for whatever plethora of reasons that someone would find themselves buried on Hart Island. So that day, when I put my hands on that stone, I felt such a healing power from it. I felt the well wishes. I felt the respect and dignity that this stone could bring to Hart Island. And that's where our mission began. And after many Zoom meetings and lots of talks, we decided that we were going to bring the stone to the gates of Hart Island, and we were not going to take no for an answer. And I told myself one day, if anyone tells us no, we're just asking the wrong person, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep on moving forward with this mission. And that, I got a little emotional when we were singing, you can get what you really want if only you try. Because we tried. And we shamed the city of New York, and we let them know we are not going anywhere. And Lewis decided we were going to leave the stone in a no parking zone right in City Island, where they did not want us. And, honestly, you guys gave me the drive. You guys gave me the heart and the fuel to keep moving forward, no matter how many times we said no, no matter who we asked. And I remember one day thinking to myself, if someone tells us no, we're just asking the wrong person, and we're going to just keep moving forward. And sure enough, we had one morning, Lewis calls me, and he's like, hey, they're going to tow the stone, and they're threatening to move it and things like that. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. And we took this powerful picture where a local religious leader was next to us praying over the stone. And it was just a moment that I knew it was clear that I saw this stone resting on Hart Island. And we organized, and we did a pandemic walk, and sure enough, when we got in touch with the mayor's office, they were more than happy to accommodate us as long as we stopped doing interviews, which we continue to do. And so I really want to thank you guys for lending me your parents, because they have been phenomenal to me. And thank you. Thank you both for helping me in so many ways. And even hearing about the Life Experience School. I have a daughter with autism, and so just knowing that the work went deeper than just, oh, I just want to place the stone, on Hart Island. It was so much deeper. It had so much meaning. And even to this day, anytime I bring that, ultimately we had a, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, in May of 2023, we had an amazing memorial walk. Some of you were there. And that even, to me, I'm not the most spiritual person, but it felt to me kind of like, the only thing I could describe it as is when Jesus is carrying the cross, and how the weight of the shame and stigma that is largely associated with Hart Island, and the reason why people are buried there was almost lifted off of my shoulders, because I didn't have to carry it alone. So, sorry. Ultimately, the stone was placed on the island. We got our way, and I didn't think we were able to do it as quickly as it was done, but I'm proud to have walked beside you, beside all of you guys, and to even be here in your beautiful city of Boston, which I love. And just know that I hope to emulate your actions. Sometimes I think, what would Meg do? What would Lewis do in certain situations? And I just want to share recently, a long time ago, Lewis had sent me a bracelet from the Peace Abbey that was made by the students there. And I loved this, bracelet, and I would walk around and hold it, and, whenever I'm really thinking, I'd mess with it and stuff like that. And someone took it from my book bag not too long ago. And at first I was really upset, and I was like, oh, how could they take that from me? And then I thought, that's not the point of this piece. This piece is to bring peace to other people. And I said, you know what, I hope whoever took it finds the same peace that it's brought me. And that's me being the pacifist that I probably never was. And it also let me know that being a pacifist was not meant to be a pushover. It was just to let the world know that not everything is a fight. And when it is, there's a way to do things. And you guys have shown me that, and I am over the moon happy. Thank you for everything you guys have done for me, my family, and even my daughter when she needed equestrian lessons. You guys really helped us out, and we are, in debt to you guys, full of love. And I don't know how else to best describe my appreciation for you both, and for the Peace Abbey Foundation, and everyone that's involved. You guys are amazing. So thank you. I'm in.
replacement.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. We actually have to.
I'd like to point out there's a table in the back that has a display of the stones created by Madeleine Champagne that reflected the tragedy of gun shooting and gun violence in this country. And we don't have much time. We're going to conclude with the Special Peace Corps Creed in a moment, but I'd like Madeleine to come up real quick and tell us about your project, real quick. Okay. And thank you all for being so patient. It's been a long day.
Well, I will dispense with my 10-page list of memorable moments from the Peace Abbey. Okay, in the interest of time.
Tell them about making the chain for Emily every year.
Oh, that's right, yes. I honor Emily's memory every year. Twice a year, I make a garland of real carnations and put them around her for her death and for when she came to the Peace Abbey. And every time I stand there and look at the statue, I swear she's going to blink. Yeah, she's wonderful. So again, I'm going to dispense with talking very long. I invite you to come back and see this. And I'm sure that, I don't know exactly when it happened, but seeds of inspiration were certainly put inside of me from the Peace Abbey. And this spring, I heard a woman talk about mass shootings, her experience 30 years ago with mass shootings. And she's still traumatized. So I was inspired, and I have, at this point, there's like 626 stones of mass shootings across this country this year. And there's been 3 installations in churches, and this is very transportable and movable, and if anybody wants to display it, you'd be welcome. But again, I'm sure seeds of inspiration is what got me to do it. So thank you, Lewis. Thank you, Meg. Thank you for all the years and all the memories and everything. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Please, yes.
I'm grateful that I get the emails from the church, and I found out that this award, it's been a while since that pilgrimage, since we saw it. In the Peace Abbey was also Peace Pilgrim tunic and Peace Pilgrim shoes. I was close with the Peace Pilgrim Center, but I first saw the book in India in '89. It took 2 years that I got to the Peace Pilgrim Center and found out about the first long walk I did in '92 across America with big group to counter Columbus for the native people and to stop nuclear testing in Nevada. That was my first long walk from UN in New York City to the test site with the group and then to San Francisco. So in '98, '99, we walked from the Peace Pagoda next to Amherst to South Africa for the second big genocide, bringing the African people from Africa and then enslavement and all that. So in the Peace Abbey, the whole group had a picture around Gandhi's statue. We were walking with the Japanese Buddhist monk. So there was a Japanese man who was, influenced by Peace Pilgrim to come on that pilgrimage. You gave him the shoes. He carried them through the whole pilgrimage. Eventually came back to the Abbey, I think, to return them. Hirofumi Naso is his name. And Lewis, when we were leaving, single file, Lewis had knelt by the road and touched the feet of every one of us. I came to this country just before Reagan was elected president. One of the reasons I didn't want to have anything to do with the military, and I'm a conscientious objector. It took longer in LA to become a citizen because of that, but I did become 4 days after the bicentennial of the signing of the Constitution. That day eventually became International Day of Peace, 21st of September. Anyway, I have walked with groups and alone all over the world from '92, over 30,000 miles on the 6 continents. I want to say that people like Lewis, like Peace Pilgrim, they are the main people that make the difference in America. It is the last empire, and it cannot continue. War has become a global business, weapons industries, weapons trade. This has to end to have peace in this world. So people like them make all the difference. I've been 5 years with the Concord Peace Vigil in Concord, Massachusetts. There is a monument of the Civil War in the center. We do the Peace Vigil every Friday morning around the flagpole. And the Quaker brother there probably knows the Peace Pilgrim Center was by a Quaker family that were 2 of the 5 people that put the Peace Pilgrim book. So in that monument in Concord, where so-called revolution started, you know, they say faithful unto death. I always pointed out and say, when the consciousness of all of us, like one family on the planet, realize to be faithful unto life, war will be impossible. Thank you, Lewis.
I would like to just conclude with a simple prayer that's said at the Life Experience School. It's an adaptation of the prayer of St. Francis. And it goes as follows. Meg, you want to come up and we'll do this together? Okay. The Special Peace Corps Creed.
When I am hungry, send me someone to feed. When I am thirsty, send me someone who needs a drink. When I am cold, send me someone to warm. When I am sad, send me someone to cheer. When I need understanding, send me someone who needs mine. When I need to be looked after, send me someone to care for. And when I think only of myself, draw my thoughts to another. Aho.
Thank you all for this beautiful homage and celebration of the Peace Abbey and of the 50 years. Meg and Lewis just retiring from the Life Experience School. Meg and Lewis, this is a special gift from Community Church. This is called a masbaha. It's a Muslim prayer bead bracelet. And these are very special to us because they're made by Shukri Abu Bakr, who is spending 65 years in jail for caring for children in Gaza and the West Bank. The Holy Land Foundation, he was the director of the Holy Land Foundation. His daughter Nida was with us exactly a year ago. And these are made out of bread. Beads of bread painted by Shukri in his prison cell, and somehow gotten out to Nida, who markets them, and we have a whole bunch of these, and it's just there's a little description of Shukri and his life inside there, and we want to give them to you, to the two of you especially, and this is in advance of my calling up our president, Sandra Ruiz Harris, to actually give the awards by the power and glory invested in her as president of the board of Community Church of Boston.
Thank you very much, everybody, for being here tonight, this afternoon. Although it's getting dark, and sometimes I get like, well, thank you everybody for being here tonight, and I really want to appreciate not just the work that everybody has shown and the sharing and the compassion and the knowledge and the patience with everybody and every project that we have here tonight, which make my job much easier because I don't have to give a long speech because you all had said everything that has to be said. So thank you for that. And because of I am the president of the community church, I feel more than honored to have you all here, and as well very encouraged for all the work that you have been doing and sharing these 103 years with the church, and keep sharing all the efforts, energy, and the compassion and passion for everything that we do here. So as such, I would like to pretty much give this to Walsh. Yes, it's a little token of our appreciation for your work. And really,
thank you very, very much.
Yes.
I appreciate that so much. This has been a beautiful day. I wanted to do some other things, you know, to say some other things, but this has been a beautiful day, and certainly will live in my heart for as long as I live.
Okay, and we also would like to give this token of our appreciation to Dan Dick, which pretty much, as we know, is a big contributor as well. So thank you very much for all your work and your sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, but no less important, to Lewis and Meg Randa, we really thank you for not just all the work, but everything else that you had shared with us tonight. Thank you very much. And I don't know if we have any more music or we are going to work. So, thank you.
Tim and Music with Heart. Shall we take it out with a joyous song? Thank you all for being with us for this event. It's just such a celebration. Elsie and Jason, thank you for being with us, from coming all the way from New York. and it was just really special to hear you. And there's one thing that they didn't mention, which is something that I carry with me, which is a card that Lewis gave me, which is a promise to donate a percentage of any sale of property to the native people whose land you occupy. That has really meant a lot to me. I shared that this last October 9th, when Indigenous Peoples Day, I was there selling Maya crafts and coffee, and next to me was representative of the Native Land Trust, and they were really interested in this gesture, which I think it's a magnificent gesture, and my wife and I need to fix our will. And so thank you for that, and so many other just amazing projects. And thank you to Songs with Heart for beautifying this ceremony. And Tim, thank you so much for coming, and all of you. And where's my mic? Oh, there it is.
All right, so let's move it out here a little bit. Come on out, everybody. Everybody stand. Let's get some stretch our bones a little bit. Yeah. Well, you don't have to stretch. You've been standing for a long time. All right. You know, this old standard here. Will the circle be unbroken? And think of things that we need in the circle these days. We'll ask you to call them out. So, yeah. Will the circle be unbroken by and by? Word D. By and by. There's a better. There's a better. Home awaited in the sky, Lord, in the sky. One more time. Will the circle be unbroken by and by? There's a better home awaited in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Well, we are thankful. We are chosen to spread a little peace. And thank you, Ben. Thank you, Lewis, for doing your piece. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaited in the sky, Lord, in the sky. And to the family, with all your story, you showed you climb a little high. And 42, then you died as you showed the way home with me and you. Will the circle be unbroken by and by? We're gonna keep the circle tight and tight. Home awaited in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Now the circle that we form, it needs a little value. Needs principle. What are some of these principles and values that we need to make this circle happen? Just shout it out.
Courage.
Innocence. Patience. Forgiveness. Bring it down a little bit. Thanks. All right, commit. Yeah, keep playing. Just bring it down. Passion. What was that? Truth. Beauty. What was that? Dogs. Did we say forgiveness? We said forgiveness. And what? Humility. Did we say tolerance? I'm not paying attention. What was that? Sincerity. Solidarity. Kimsa. What does that mean? Non-violence. Celebration. Music.
Love.
You got Dan, you got your tin whistle? You can play along with this. Happiness. Thank you, Cordy. Man. Boy, we got a lot of values, a lot of principles. What's that? Stamina. What was that one? Fearlessness. Universal compassion. Ruthless compassion. Yes. Singing. Imagination. Cordy. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. All right. Happy, that's right.
Community.
Community. Perseverance. Nice. Dan, what do you say? You play something along in D? Nice, yeah. One more thing that we need in this boat of values and principles. We need a leader. And the leadership that we've seen in the last 50 years, all of you spoke from the heart. I've experienced. Amen to Meg and Lewis for being those leaders. Will the circle say a prayer. Acapella. Will the circle a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Give me a little. Take it down. All right. 3 cheers for the Randas. Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray!
And 3 more for Dot Walsh and Dan Dick. Hip hip. Hip hip.
Hooray!
Hip hip.
Hooray!
Woo!
Long live the Peace Abbey.
And I just want to end with what I started with, which is kindred communities, families. Peace Abbey, Community Church of Boston. We are here at your service to offer you any help in any of your quixotic, cuckoo, amazing schemes and plans and realities that come to fruition, which was just so beautifully expressed with Elsie and with this whole thing that's happening at Hart Island is just so deeply moving. And I thank you for sharing this and for telling the people out on Zoom and YouTube that we are here and we are in solidarity with all the struggling people of the world, many of whom are buried on Hart Island. And so follow us, follow the Peace Abbey Foundation, and we are so glad that you joined us, and let's have something good to eat.
Yeah, right. Amen.
And with that,